Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Prince?
Here.
Ms. Perez?
Here.
Mr. Pavoni?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Mr. Corman?
Here.
Ms. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Person?
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, all present.
Thanks, Jason. Moving on to the first item on the agenda, which is administrative report. Mr. Covington.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members have a couple of items just to remind people, again, continue to have a number of street projects, road work we're doing out there. So once again, if people can just be aware and be cautious, and look especially for workers who might be in the street and use great caution. So we're doing some pavement patching in the area of Southeast May Valley Road and Northeast 31st Street at Newcastle Road. That'll be this week. This week, we're also continuing to do some work in the Grady Way between Rainier and Oakesdale. We're doing work which will require intermittent lane closures all directions on Hauser Way North at Northeast 8th Street for some pavement patching. Our annually overlay project continues to do work in several areas around the city. And most folks are probably aware, if you drive Main Avenue, we've now shifted traffic over to the west, is because we are putting some water main improvements on those east lanes. So that, again, just a reminder, just for folks to be careful as they drive around. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next item is audience comment. Howard McComber.
Okay, I'm gonna give this a try. Push the blue button, right?
Transportation is
So push a green button. I did it wrong. That's it, you got it. That old doctor.
These two guys,
Here we are.
20 years.
Get that, it's in there.
Howard, you've been having Jay do this for at least 8 years, I'm aware of.
I know. And my grandchildren think I'm a lost cause. I think it's the same thing, because I make the bad mistake. I have one of them help me, and they usually say the same thing to Jay. I'm going to have to teach you how to do this.
Yeah, so,
They pull out my thing. Do you know that there's all kinds of things in here? I have no idea how they got there or anything else, but they do stuff, all kinds of stuff goes out of here. It is absolutely
well,
boring.
next time it's going to be a test to see if you can do it.
Could have lessons, but he's going off to pick spuds for 2 weeks back in our home, which is kind of fun. Came tonight to say two things. Number one, I appreciate the tremendous coming together and volunteer of you people up here. The mayor sets a great example, and everybody else on that dais is a worker and a volunteer, every single one of you. And that's what makes Renton wonderful, is because we have a whole town full of people who are passionate about making Renton great and helping each other, and that's where it all comes from. I saw the chief of police out there when we were doing our day of service, cooking food. He's always there. And everybody else, all of you are helpers, and that's what it takes. So everybody joining hands makes it a better place. And this is one of our things here. We have REACH, which is the Renton Ecumenical Association of Churches, which is not a theological group. We don't talk theology, we talk charity. There's no difference between any of us when we're talking about people and charity. We have a wonderful, diverse city. The most important thing we need to do is to have everybody intermeshed, feel important, be noticed, be felt, and have a way. And anybody can have a bad time hit them. Anyone can. REACH's goal here is to help people who are having difficulties, who are vulnerable. And some people are just, they're going to always be vulnerable. We feed them anyway. We're just delighted to do that. I took a fellow through REACH's Center of Hope this last Friday. It's Brent, who works with the SEC that's building that fantastic thing at Southport at the end of Lake Washington, which is going to be a jewel. And you guys had a great deal to do with attracting that kind of quality here. And he is a super guy, but he came through and took a look at it. He said, I've been here 10 years. I didn't know this was going on. And I thought, anybody who wants to see charity in action can come down to City Hall. And when you walk into City Hall, there's always a little lady there who's the volunteer. I think they get the sweetest grandmothers they can find for that job. It's fabulous. But right over on that other wall, there's a phone. You just lift it up, only goes to one place. And you lift it up, and you can have someone come up and take you down, and you can see the Center of Hope. And the Center of Hope wouldn't exist if you folks didn't care and provide us a space. So I just want you to know that this is something we all do together. We're having our gala on the 8th of October, about a week and a half, and it's going to be kind of an exciting time. And we have city staff on volunteer time. These guys volunteer. I think they volunteer more than they spend time on the clock. They spend time just serving.
Yeah.
Kelly and Terry and those folks do so much. Everywhere I go, I see them in there working, just like I see the rest of you. You're all part of the program, and it's just wonderful to be in this town working together. And we have great goals. We just keep at it. And we may get passionate, and sometimes we may not agree 100%, but we all agree that Renton's where we want to be, and we want to make it as good as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Next item is the consent agenda. We have 3 items for council consideration. Are there any items a council member would like pulled for discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Prince.
seeing none, I move that the consent agenda be adopted as presented.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Prince, seconded by Mr. Corman, that council adopt the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to unfinished business, Mr. Prince.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Perez.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pavoni.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Public Safety has one committee report to be read.
Public Safety Committee, Committee Report. Ordinance amending Rent Municipal Code 133A regarding nuisances. The Public Safety Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the ordinance amending RMC 133A purpose in order to clarify the city's intent that calls to report domestic violence, sex-related offenses, stalking, or any person requiring or requesting medical attention shall not be considered a nuisance or used against a person making such a call in RMC 133 nuisance criminal prosecution matter. This is signed by the committee chair and vice chair.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Pavoni.
I move that the council concur with the findings of the Public Safety Committee.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Pavoni, seconded by Ms. Palmer, that council concur with the Public Safety Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. Taylor.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Corman.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Palmer.
Oh, yes. We had a marathon, Transportation Committee.
Okay, the first Transportation Aviation Committee report is regarding Airport 820 parcel, the Rainier Flight Service lease, and the Boeing Company sublease. The Transportation Aviation Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve a 35-year land lease of the 820 parcel to Rainier Flight Service LLC and the sublease of the same parcel to the Boeing Company for 3.5 years as amended. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Palmer.
I move the council concur with the committee report. Second?
It's been moved by Ms. Palmer, seconded by Ms. Perez, that council concur with the Transportation Aviation Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And the next report is regarding the Renton Transit Center street crossing, excuse me, the Renton Transit Center pedestrian street crossing repair. The Transportation Aviation Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to adopt the resolution to close Burnett Avenue South between South 2nd Street and South 3rd Street from October 12th through October 19th in order to repair the broken concrete in the street crossings. This is signed by the committee and vice chair
Mr.
and
Mayor.
members.
Mr.
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Palmer.
I just want to point out that staff has worked closely with the transit operators, Metro and Sound Transit, and they were in agreement that it would be less painful to just close it, get it all done in a week, than to do little spotty bits of it. And this way they reroute for the duration and then they go back. So just wanted to clarify that I appreciate that. And with that, I recommend that I move the council concur with the committee report. Second?
Been moved by Ms. Palmer, seconded by Ms. Perez, that council concur with the Transportation Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
The next report is regarding supplement number 3 to the contract with Pertite for construction management of the Logan Avenue project. The Transportation Aviation Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to execute supplemental agreement number 3 with Pertite, Inc. in the amount of $811,730 to provide construction management services for the Logan Avenue North Airport Way to North 8th Street Improvement Project. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Palmer.
I move that council concur with the committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Palmer, seconded by Mr. Corman, that council concur with the Transportation Committee report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. This is long in coming, and we're really glad to
Yes.
see it moving forward.
And the next report is regarding the Landing Gear Works lease amendment number 2. The Transportation Aviation Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve an increase of 1,330 square feet of storage space in the area leased by Landing Gear Works LLC in the 295 East Perimeter Road building. Also extend the term of the lease for an additional 12 months from August 31st, 2016 to August 31st, 2017, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the amendment. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Palmer.
This was interesting. We had 3 small businesses on our airport that we did committee reports on, leases or subleases, or this one where, so a wonderful story of a little company that moved in a few years ago, and they expanded, and I think this is the 3rd time, and they are hiring employees, local employees. So it's just exciting of some of the things that are going on our airport with small businesses. We think of the airport for Boeing, but there's really a lot of other things going on. And with that, I move that council concur with the committee report.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Palmer, seconded by Ms. Perez, that council concur with the Transportation Committee report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the next committee report is regarding the Aviation Training Center operating permit and sublease agreement. The Transportation Aviation Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to approve the operating permit and sublease agreement with Aviation Training Center effective September 1st, 2015 on a month-to-month basis, not to extend beyond January 31st, 2026. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Here's another small business that's moved from Boeing Field over to Renton Airport. I just want to clarify that this is not the State Aerospace Training Center, because there was a little confusion even in the room. This is a company that I believe they certify, they use simulators. Simulators. People come in and they go through the simulators and get certified for different things. And it's a wonderful partnership with the Ace Aviation and that new red barn building over there, taking their 3rd floor. So they're thrilled to be over here. And with that, I move the council concur with the committee report.
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Palmer, seconded by Ms. Perez, that council concur with this Transportation Committee report. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the final Transportation Committee report is regarding the speed limit reduction on Aberdeen Avenue Northeast. The Transportation Aviation Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to amend RMC 1011-1B10, reducing the speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour on Aberdeen Avenue Northeast between Sunset Boulevard Northeast and Northeast 27th Street. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms.
my
Palmer.
last little talk here. Aberdeen has become a thoroughfare, like an arterial, as people are trying to bypass 405. And interestingly enough, it is posted with 2 different signs. One is 30 miles an hour and one's 25. This is a highly residential, packed area where elementary kids have to walk on Aberdeen. Staff also, via a resident complaint of lots of trucks that have started through the summer. Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your staff found 50 trucks. I mean, these are like dump truck-sized trucks using that thoroughfare of 12 different companies, and those are being contacted. So we do appreciate when our residents let us know of something that's changed, and we can't be everywhere all the time. So I think hopefully this will start to make a difference and raise awareness. And I move that council concur with the committee report.
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Palmer, second by Ms. Perez, that council concur with the Transportation Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. Person.
Just one report.
Hey, Finance Committee report, approval of claims and payroll vouchers. The Finance Committee approves for payment on September 21st, 2015, claims vouchers 340969 through 341335, 4 wire transfers and 1 payroll run with benefit withholding payments totaling $5,807,883.46, and payroll vouchers including 823 direct deposits and 68 payroll checks totaling $1,690,862.28. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Person.
just for the information, most likely more than you don't want to hear, but we had 202 pages of vouchers that the Finance Committee went through today. And of that, 330 of the items were utility tax rebates that we give to low-income seniors every year. It's a program that started about 7 years ago. I just want to note that we most likely only would have had about 100 pages if we hadn't had those 330, but it, well worthwhile. With that, I move the council concur in the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Person, seconded by Mr. Taylor, that council concur with the Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jason. Moving on to resolutions and ordinances. We have 1 resolution, 3 ordinances for first reading, 2 ordinances for second and final reading.
Okay, the resolution is regarding the street closure of Burnett Avenue South. A resolution of the City of Renton, Washington, authorizing the closure of a portion of Burnett Avenue South from October 12, 2015 through October 19, 2015, between South 2nd Street and South 3rd Street.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Person,
I move the resolution be adopted as read.
Second?
been moved by Mr. Person, second by Ms. Palmer, that this resolution be adopted as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, the first ordinance for first reading is regarding the McLeod franchise. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, granting unto McLeod USA Telecommunications Services authorized to do business within the state of Washington, its affiliates, successors, and assigns the right, privilege, and authority to install communication facilities, specifically fiber optic cable and related appurtenances, under, along, over, below, through, and across the streets, avenues, and alleys of the City of Renton within the public right-of-way of Renton.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corman.
I move this ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Corman, seconded by Ms. Palmer, that this ordinance be placed on second and final reading next council meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And the next ordinance is regarding nuisances. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending Section 133 of Chapter 3, Remedies and Penalties of Title I, Administrative of the City Code, clarifying the purpose and scope of Renton's chronic nuisance regulations.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corman.
I move this ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Corman, seconded by Mr. Pavoni, that this ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And the next ordinance or the final ordinance for first reading is regarding the reduced speed limit on Aberdeen Avenue. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending Section 1011-1 of Chapter 11, Speed Limits of Title 10 Traffic of the Renton Municipal Code, reducing the speed limit on Aberdeen Avenue Northeast from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Palmer.
I move the ordinance be advanced to second and final reading this evening.
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Palmer, second by Ms. Perez, that this ordinance be advanced to second and final reading this evening. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, I will read it again. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending Section 1011-1 of Chapter 11, Speed Limits of Title 10 Traffic of the Renton Municipal Code, reducing the speed limit on Aberdeen Avenue Northeast from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Person.
I move the ordinance be adopted as read.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Person, second by Ms. Palmer, that this ordinance be adopted as read. Requires a roll call.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Ms. Perez?
Aye.
Mr. Pavoni?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Corman?
Aye.
Ms. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Person?
Aye.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, all ayes.
The ayes have it. Thank you.
Okay, the second ordinance for second and final reading is regarding junk vehicles. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending Sections 131, 132, and 133 of Chapter 3, Remedies and Penalties of Title 1, Administrative, Section 613 of Chapter 1, Junk Vehicles or Abandonment of Vehicles of Title 6, Police Regulations, and Section 814, Unlawful Storage, Deposit, Disposal, Scavenging, and Hauling of Solid Waste of Title 8, Health and Sanitation of the Renton Municipal Code by making violations of 6-1-3 and 814 civil infractions and correcting associated regulations.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Person.
I move the ordinance be adopted as read.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Person, second by Ms. Palmer, that this ordinance be adopted as read and requires a roll call.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Ms. Perez?
Aye.
Mr. Pavoni?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Corman?
Aye.
Ms. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Person?
Aye.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, all ayes.
The ayes have it.
Okay, the final ordinance for second and final reading is regarding establishing a process for local licensing of marijuana businesses. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending Section 41250 of Chapter 1, Administration and Enforcement of Title 4, Development Regulations, and Section 553 of Chapter 5, Business Licenses of Title 5, Finance and Business Regulations of City Code, establishing a process for local licensing of marijuana businesses.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Person.
I move the ordinance be adopted as read.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Person, seconded by Mr. Corman, that this ordinance be adopted as read and requires a roll call.
Mr. Prince?
Aye.
Ms. Perez?
Aye.
Mr. Pavoni?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Corman?
Aye.
Ms. Palmer?
Aye.
Mr. Person?
Aye.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, all ayes.
The ayes have it, and that ordinance passes. Moving on to new business, Mr. Prince.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I've got committee of the whole meeting on Monday, September 28th at 5:30 in the council chambers. We have one item on the agenda, downtown revitalization / redevelopment update and discussion. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Perez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Community Service Committee that will have taken place on Monday, September 28th, has been canceled. And it will be it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pavoni.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Taylor.
Yes, Utilities Committee meeting scheduled for September 28th at 5 p.m. Got a couple of items on the agenda. One is request for partial release of easement by Whitman Court PUD, and second is request for partial release of easement, Renton Center Senior Living Property. That is all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Corman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to announce a Planning and Development Committee meeting for Monday, September 28th at 4:00 p.m. in the council conference room. Potentially two items on the agenda. The first one is the docket 11 CA zone density regulations. The second item that's showing up on our agenda, I'm not sure if that's misplaced, a public defender contract.
Jay, can you help with that?
Wouldn't that go into?
And it wouldn't be in
Yeah,
that committee.
It seems like that
Wouldn't
would
be
be
in that
in
committee.
public safety.
I thought we approved that already.
We did. I'm not sure why that's just floating
Why that's
around,
showing
but
We'll just take that.
you've, Public Safety Committee already looked at that and approved it.
Okay, so we'll strike the second item. So we just have one item on that agenda, the docket 11 CA zone density regulations. And that's all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Palmer.
Yes, the Transportation Committee normally scheduled for tomorrow, September 22nd, is canceled.
Okay, and Mr. Person.
Mr. Mayor, it's hard to believe, but the Finance Committee will not be meeting, so I have nothing to announce. However, I would like to refer a topic to the Committee of the Whole. As I was driving down Lake Washington Boulevard the other day, I saw there's 3 hotels being built.
Yep.
And that's going to mean more hotel tax coming into the city. And I would like to I move that we refer to the committee of the whole, a discussion on the hotel tax and how it's used for tourism and the whole gamut.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Person, seconded by Ms. Palmer, that the topic of hotel motel tax dollars be referred to the committee of the whole. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr.
I'd
Crum.
just like clarification when that's announced. We're just going to get a status. We're not talking about actively changing that tax.
Not that I'm aware of, but I think it's important that we have a discussion about all the dollars that are coming in and where they're coming in. And another one of my concerns is, I happen to have a lot over in eastern Washington in a very obscure place, and we're paying to have a rent and pamphlet there. And it's in, not only is it in an obscure part of the country, but it's in a very obscure part of the building that nobody ever goes to. So I just,
I see.
I just like to have an update on it.
Okay, very good. Yeah,
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Moving on to audience comment. Was anybody want to address the council? Come to the podium, give your name and city of residence, and you have 5 minutes, and there's a timer next to the city clerk.
My name is Alex Pierce. I live in the Renton Highlands. I'm a medical cannabis patient. You didn't listen to us last week. I don't know why, but you went ahead and passed the ordinance anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and run for city council.
Good luck
like
to
I
you.
said. Absolutely.
And just so you know, what the council passed allows us to accept medical marijuana, whereas right now we can't. So if you're opposed to medical marijuana,
I'm not
that's essentially
opposed.
what you're saying, because that's what the council passed tonight.
As read, I don't agree with the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'd like to run for city council.
That's
My
great.
5
You
minutes
can't,
aren't
you don't
up
make your
either.
announcements here, you do it with the PDC and with the public, so good luck to you.
Were my 5 minutes up?
Do you have something else to add to that?
Absolutely.
You can't campaign for office, but you're welcome to talk
Okay.
about your topic.
My topic is medical cannabis. I don't know why none of you care, but there's tons of patients in Renton who really have nowhere to go if we close. So it'll really force them back to the black market. I already know plenty of people who are ready to take those patients on. And it's just ridiculous because they're not going to pay 17 a gram. They're not going to pay 25 a gram. They're never, ever going to pay 90 a gram for their concentrates. It's not going to happen. They cannot afford it. They make minimum wage or fixed incomes, and you're trying to tax that even more than they already are. Have a good day.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Kerman.
Well, I would just like to clarify that I think it's not helpful for those people that support medical marijuana to characterize this council as not being supportive of medical marijuana, because we are. I mean, I think we've done everything that the state law basically authorizes us to do. And I think ultimately there's more discussion that has to occur in the State House. I'm a believer in medical marijuana, and I think that there needs to be more work done. So I would hope people wouldn't go forward and say that Renton City Council is against this, because that actually works against getting policy to change in Olympia. So I just ask people to try and understand that what we're doing is the most practical way to keep as many businesses in compliance with the state law as we know how under the circumstances.
And I just would like also to add that in most cases, most insurance cover medical marijuana.
Okay, and Mr. Person, do you have anything to add?
You know, I've decided maybe I better keep my mouth shut for once.
Mr. Prince?
I'd say something I shouldn't.
No comment.
Well, go ahead, you can have the next topic.
So I move that the council meeting recess into executive session for approximately 30 minutes to discuss labor negotiations and pending litigation update, with no official action to be taken, and that the council meeting be adjourned when the executive session is adjourned.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Prince, second by Mr. Corman, that we recess into executive session for approximately 30 minutes, labor negotiations and possible litigation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.